Deep within the heart of ancient Germania, a place of dense forests and shadowy glens, lies a secret. Not just any secret, but one soaked in blood and steeped in legend. A secret that whispers of empires challenged and destinies rewritten. This is the Teutoburg forest, a place that witnessed one of the most crushing defeats in military history. A place where the might of the Roman Empire, the undisputed master of the known world, was stopped dead in its tracks. The year was 9 AD. 3 Roman legions, the pride of Caesar's army, marched confidently beneath the imposing canopy of trees. They were led by Publius Quinctilius Varus, a seasoned general with an impeccable lineage. His mission to consolidate Roman control over the newly conquered territories of Germania. The legions, their armor gleaming under the filtered sunlight, seemed invincible. They represented the cutting edge of military power, disciplined, well-equipped, and led by experienced officers. What Varus didn't know, couldn't have known, was that he was walking into a carefully planned trap. Every step deeper into the forest, every rustle of leaves, every bird call carried them closer to disaster. For lurking within the shadows, hidden by the dense foliage, lay a force unlike any the Romans had faced before. A force united under a single banner, fueled by a desperate desire for freedom. The Roman Empire at the turn of the first millennium was a force unlike any the world had ever seen. From the sun-baked deserts of North Africa to the rolling hills of Britannia, the legions of Rome had carved out a vast empire. Their standards, emblazoned with the eagle of Jupiter, had been carried to the farthest reaches of the known world. Roman roads, marvels of engineering, crisscrossed the empire, connecting a dizzying array of cultures and peoples. The legions were the iron fist within the velvet glove of Roman diplomacy. They had vanquished countless foes, from the fierce Gauls to the armored elephants of Pyrrhus of Epirus. Yet, even in this golden age, cracks were beginning to show. Rebellions flickered like flames, constantly threatening to erupt. And on the fringes, new enemies were stirring, eager to test their mettle. On the fringes of the Roman world lived a young man named Arminius. Born into the Cherusci tribe, Arminius's life was one of conflict and struggle. He learned the ways of the forest and the thrill of the hunt. He grew tall and strong, a natural leader among his people. Taken as a hostage to Rome, Arminius was raised in the Roman manner. He donned Roman armor and fought with distinction. He gained Roman citizenship and earned the trust of his superiors, yet he never forgot the land of his birth and the faces of his people. The seeds of rebellion began to take root. Meanwhile, back in Germania, the Roman governor, Publius Quinctilius Varus, was tasked with consolidating Rome's hold on the newly conquered territories. A seasoned administrator and a veteran of several campaigns, Varus was confident in his ability to bring civilization, Roman style, to the barbarian tribes of the north. He established forts, levied taxes, and dispensed Roman justice, often with a heavy hand. Unbeknownst to Varus, however, his every move was being watched, his every edict analyzed by a pair of keen eyes hidden in the shadows. Arminius, having earned the trust of his Roman superiors, had been sent back to Germania, ostensibly to assist in the pacification efforts. But Arminius harbored a secret agenda, one fueled by years of simmering resentment and a burning desire to see his people free from Roman rule. Skillfully playing the part of the loyal Roman auxiliary commander, Arminius moved among the Germanic tribes, subtly fanning the flames of discontent. He spoke of Roman oppression, of stolen lands, of desecrated holy groves. He reminded the tribes of their shared heritage, their warrior spirit, their ancestors who had resisted invaders for centuries. And beneath the cloak of diplomacy, he began to weave a conspiracy, a plan as audacious as it was dangerous, a plan that would pit the might of Rome against the cunning of the forest itself. Varus, blinded by his own arrogance, remained oblivious to the storm brewing around him. He saw Arminius as a valuable asset, a testament to the civilizing power of Rome. The Germanic tribes, in his mind, were a disorganized rabble, easily subdued by the disciplined might of the legions. He dismissed the reports of unrest, the whispers of rebellion, as the grumblings of savages who couldn't appreciate the benefits of Roman rule. However, cracks were beginning to show in Varus's carefully constructed facade of confidence. Rumors reached him of strange movements in the forests, of tribes gathering in unprecedented numbers. His scouts, venturing further afield, returned with tales of unease, of villages deserted, of an unnatural silence hanging heavy in the air. A sense of foreboding, like a chill wind blowing through the trees, began to creep into Varus's heart. Still, he pressed on, driven by a potent cocktail of duty, ambition, and perhaps a touch of fear. He had 3 legions under his command, the flower of Roman military might. Surely, no force of undisciplined barbarians could stand before them. And so, with each passing day, with each step deeper into the heart of Germania, Varus marched closer to his destiny, blind to the trap being sprung around him, unaware that he was about to become a pawn in a game orchestrated by the very man he trusted most. As the summer of 9 AD waned, the whispers of rebellion grew into a roar that could no longer be ignored. Tribes that had long been rivals set aside their differences, united by a common hatred for their Roman oppressors. From the depths of the forests, from the windswept plains, warriors flocked to Arminius's banner, their faces grim, their eyes burning with a fierce determination. Arminius, a master strategist and manipulator, knew that victory against Rome could not be achieved through brute force alone. The legions were too well equipped, too well trained, too experienced in the art of war. He needed to lure them into a battle of his own choosing, a battle where the Roman strengths would become their weaknesses, where the trees themselves would fight on the side of the Germanic tribes. And so he waited, patiently, like a spider patiently weaving its web, allowing Varus to march deeper and deeper into the heart of Germania. Every step the Romans took carried them further from their supply lines, further from the safety of their fortified camps, closer to the heart of the trap that Arminius was so carefully constructing. The stage was set, the players in place. The fate of empires hung in the balance, soon to be decided in a clash of civilizations amidst the dark and ancient trees of the Teutoburg forest. The Roman legions, accustomed to the order and discipline of camp life, found themselves increasingly ill at ease as they marched deeper into Germania. The once straight and ordered columns, symbols of Roman efficiency, became stretched and fragmented by the demands of the unfamiliar terrain. Dense forests, riddled with hidden streams and treacherous bogs, slowed their progress to a crawl, testing the patience of even the most seasoned centurion. The oppressive silence of the forest, broken only by the occasional bird call or the rustle of leaves underfoot, weighed heavily on the soldiers' minds. Gone were the open plains and rolling hills of Gaul, the familiar landmarks of Roman conquest. Here, the very landscape seemed to resist their advance, to close in around them like a living, breathing entity. The weight of their armor, a source of pride on the parade grounds of Rome, became a burden in this unforgiving wilderness. Sweat stung their eyes, fatigue gnawed at their muscles, and still they marched on, driven by the unquestioning obedience instilled in every legionary from the day they first donned the lorica. Varus, despite his reputation as a prudent commander, seemed unfazed by the growing unease among his troops. Perhaps he had spent too long in the comfortable villas of Roman-occupied Gaul, too accustomed to the trappings of power and the deference of conquered peoples. He dismissed the concerns of his scouts, the whispers of rebellion, as nothing more than the usual grumblings of barbarians. He surrounded himself with advisors and sycophants who told him what he wanted to hear, who reassured him that the legions were invincible, that the Germanic tribes were nothing more than disorganized savages. He dined lavishly, even amidst the hardships of the campaign, his silver plate gleaming in the flickering firelight, a stark contrast to the rough rations of his men. A shroud of complacency had descended upon the Roman camp, a dangerous arrogance that blinded Varus to the reality of his situation. He saw himself as a bringer of civilization, a dispenser of Roman justice, oblivious to the hatred simmering beneath the surface, the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Unbeknownst to the Romans, Arminius, the cunning architect of their downfall, had chosen the battlefield with meticulous care. The Teutoburg forest, a sprawling expanse of dense woodland and treacherous bogs, was no random collection of trees. It was a sacred place to the Germanic tribes, a source of myth and legend, a terrain they knew intimately. For generations, they had hunted within its shadowy depths, tracked game through its tangled undergrowth, learned the secrets of its hidden paths. They knew where the streams ran deepest, where the ground gave way to treacherous bogs, where the trees grew thickest, forming natural barriers that could conceal an army. Arminius, a master of both Roman and Germanic military tactics, understood that the forest could be his greatest ally. He knew that the legions, accustomed to fighting in open formations, relying on their discipline and superior equipment, would be vulnerable in this unfamiliar environment. The trees themselves would become his soldiers, the bogs his traps, the silence his weapon. As the Roman column snaked its way deeper into the forest, a sense of unease settled over even the most hardened veterans. The air grew heavy, the silence oppressive, broken only by the creak of leather and the clink of armor. Strange birds circled overhead, their calls unfamiliar and unsettling. Whispers of ill omens spread through the ranks, carried on the wind that sighed through the trees. Experienced centurions, veterans of countless campaigns, scanned the forest edge with wary eyes. They had seen too much, fought too many battles to dismiss the feeling that something was amiss. The terrain was too quiet, the enemy too elusive. They had expected resistance, ambushes, the usual tactics of barbarian warfare. But this silence, this eerie stillness, spoke of something else entirely. Their fears, though unspoken, were not unfounded. For hidden among the trees, their bodies camouflaged with mud and leaves, lay the warriors of the Germanic tribes, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. They were patient, disciplined, their fingers itching to unleash their fury. They would wait for the right moment. The moment when the Romans were at their most vulnerable, the moment when the forest itself would rise up against them. The sun, a pale disk through the dense canopy, began its descent, casting long shadows that danced and twisted among the trees. The Roman column halted for the night, weary from the day's march, eager for the respite that darkness would bring. Tents were pitched, fires kindled, the familiar routines of camp life a comforting ritual in this strange and unsettling land. Varus, confident in his own invincibility, retired to his lavish tent, attended by his retinue of servants and advisors. He had received no reports of enemy activity, no indication that his carefully laid plans were about to unravel. The legions, he believed, were invincible, their reputation alone enough to cow any barbarian force into submission. But the calm was deceptive, the silence a prelude to a storm that would shake the Roman world to its core. For as the legionaries slept, exhausted from their long march, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the flickering firelight, Arminius and his warriors prepared to strike. The trap had been sprung, the die cast. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest, a clash of civilizations, a struggle for freedom against the might of an empire, was about to begin. Dawn in the Teutoburg Forest. The Roman camp stirred to life, soldiers preparing for the day's march. High above, hidden among the leaves, Arminius signaled his warriors. A deadly silence fell, broken only by the whisper of the wind. Arrows rained down upon the unsuspecting Romans, each finding its mark. The ambush had begun. The initial shock of the attack quickly gave way to a disciplined response. Roman centurions barked orders, forming a protective wall of shields, but the dense undergrowth hampered their movements. Arminius had chosen his moment well, exploiting the terrain. Germanic warriors surged forward, united by a common hatred. They were determined to drive the invaders from their lands. The Roman lines, though shaken, held, but the dense forest made maneuvering impossible. Germanic warriors darted in and out, exploiting every gap. Panic began to spread through the Roman ranks. This was a fight for survival against an unseen enemy. The forest itself seemed to conspire against them. The Roman situation grew increasingly desperate. Arminius funneled the legions into deadly killing zones. The forest echoed with the sounds of slaughter. Roman soldiers fought with desperate courage. But every attempt to break free was met with fierce resistance. The forest had become their tomb. The Teutoburg forest had become a cauldron of horror. The air was thick with the stench of blood and smoke. Roman legionaries fought back with the ferocity of cornered animals. But their discipline was no match for the Germanic onslaught. The ground was a treacherous morass of mud and blood. The forest echoed with the screams of the wounded. Germanic warriors fought with terrifying ferocity. They showed no mercy, gave no quarter. Roman soldiers were hacked to pieces, their cries for clemency ignored. The forest floor was a gruesome testament to the savagery of man. The air crackled with the intensity of hatred. The struggle was a raw, primal fight to the death. The Roman resistance began to crumble. Panic spread through the ranks like wildfire. Soldiers broke ranks and ran, only to be cut down. The once proud eagles of Rome were now targets. To capture an eagle was the ultimate prize for the Germanic warriors. The loss of an eagle was a disgrace beyond measure for the Romans. For the remaining Roman soldiers, the world had shrunk to a universe of suffering. They clung to life with desperate tenacity. The forest had become a living nightmare. The cries of the wounded blended into a cacophony of despair. The lucky ones died quickly. For others, death came slowly, a lingering torment. As the sun set, the outcome of the battle was clear. The Roman legions lay shattered, their dreams of conquest buried. Varus watched in horror as his world crumbled. He faced a choice: capture or a soldier's death. He chose the latter, falling upon his sword. The dream of a Roman Germania had died with him. Silence descended upon the Teutoburg forest. The air hung thick with the stench of blood and death. The forest floor was a gruesome mosaic of broken bodies. The Germanic warriors moved among the carnage, their faces grim. The forest seemed to mourn, its trees bearing silent witness. The Teutoburg forest had become a place of dread. News of the disaster spread slowly. When the truth reached Rome, it struck with the force of a thunderbolt. The Senate was plunged into chaos. The legions had been destroyed, 3 eagles lost. The people of Rome reacted with disbelief and rage. The empire was not as invincible as they had believed. The defeat at Teutoburg Forest sent shockwaves through the Roman world. The legions had been humbled, the barbarians proven deadly. The Roman frontier took on new significance as a fragile defense. The legacy of Teutoburg Forest would haunt the Roman psyche. It fueled a deep-seated fear of the Germanic tribes. The empire's dreams of limitless expansion had died. The weight of the disaster fell heavily upon Caesar Augustus. The news from Germania had shaken him to his core. Yet Augustus refused to give in to despair. He would mourn the dead and rebuild his legions. The empire would endure, and Rome would not forgive. Augustus, the emperor, would not be broken. The Teutoburg Forest was more than a battlefield. It was a turning point. The disaster forced Rome, the self-proclaimed master of the world, to confront the limits of its power. The empire, vast and seemingly invincible, had stumbled, bloodied and humbled by the ferocity of the Germanic tribes. The dream of a Roman Germania, a land tamed and civilized under the rule of law, lay buried beneath the leaves and the bones of thousands. The strategic implications were immediate and far-reaching. The Rhine River, once a gateway for Roman expansion, now solidified as a frontier, a line in the sand that marked the extent of Roman dominance. Beyond it lay Germania, a land of dark forests and untamed tribes, a constant reminder of the empire's mortality. The legions, once instruments of conquest, now found themselves tasked with a new mission: to defend, to hold back the tide, to ensure that the horrors of Teutoburg were never repeated. The empire's focus shifted. No longer could Rome afford the luxury of unchecked expansion, the relentless pursuit of glory and plunder. The specter of barbarian invasion, once a distant threat, now loomed large in the Roman psyche. Resources were diverted to strengthen the frontiers, to raise new legions, to placate restless allies, and to remind potential enemies of the price of defiance. The empire, though wounded, was far from defeated. But the Teutoburg Forest had left an indelible mark, a scar that would forever alter the course of Roman history. The victory in the Teutoburg Forest had a profound impact on the Germanic tribes. It ignited a spark of defiance, a realization that Rome, for all its might, was not invincible. The legend of Arminius, the warrior who had outwitted and defeated the legions, spread like wildfire, inspiring future generations to resist Roman encroachment. The tribes, once fragmented and prone to infighting, began to see the value of unity, the need to put aside their differences in the face of a common enemy. The Teutoburg Forest had shown them that even the mightiest empire could be brought low, that courage, cunning, and a deep knowledge of the land could overcome superior numbers and technology. The Roman frontier, once a symbol of Roman power, now became a point of contention, a battleground where the two worlds collided. Raids and skirmishes became commonplace, each side testing the other's resolve, each victory, however small, fueling the fires of resentment and resistance. The Teutoburg Forest had unleashed a force that would shape the destiny of both Rome and Germania. The barbarian tide, once held at bay by the legions, now ebbed and flowed along the frontier, a constant pressure, a harbinger of the chaos that would eventually engulf the Roman world. The seeds of the empire's destruction, sown in the blood-soaked soil of the Teutoburg Forest, were slowly beginning to sprout. Centuries have passed since the legions marched into the Teutoburg Forest, since the clash of steel and the screams of the dying echoed through the ancient trees. The Roman Empire, that once mighty edifice of power and ambition, has long since crumbled into dust, its legacy scattered across the landscape of history. Yet, the memory of the Teutoburg Forest endures, a haunting reminder of the impermanence of empires, the power of human resilience, and the enduring allure of freedom. The forest itself, now a place of pilgrimage for history buffs and armchair generals, still whispers its secrets to those who listen closely. The echoes of that fateful battle reverberate through time, reminding us that even the mightiest empires are not invincible, that even the most carefully laid plans can unravel in the face of unforeseen circumstances. The Teutoburg forest, a symbol of both Roman hubris and Germanic defiance, stands as a testament to the unpredictable nature of history, the enduring power of the human spirit, and the enduring legacy of a battle that changed the course of Western civilization. The Teutoburg forest is more than just a place. It is a symbol, an idea, a touchstone for those who seek to understand the past and navigate the complexities of the present. It reminds us that history is not a linear progression, but a tapestry woven from countless threads of triumph and tragedy, of courage and folly, of the enduring struggle between order and chaos, between civilization and the wild heart of humanity. Please like the video, subscribe to Untold Past, and ring the notification bell for more historical content.